Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Friday, August 7th, 2020, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Joe Biden's potential vice presidential choices. So on your screen right now, the Washington Post has a power ranking for the 6 top people that could possibly be Joe Biden's vice president. Number 1 is Kamala Harris, number 2, Susan Rice, number 3, Elizabeth Warren, number 4, Karen Bass, 5, Val Demings, and 6, Tammy Duckworth. So they've actually removed some people off of the ranking. This includes Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota. She recently announced that she does not want to be Joe Biden's vice presidential candidate. Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, while riding high in the news stories back in April and May, has since fallen off their power ranking. Stacey Abrams fell off after a number of people were raising the issue of experience. That's why Susan Rice and Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren seem to be in the top 3 position. Stacey Abrams only served as a state senator. Arguably, she's a very smart candidate for this position. However, some people will raise the question as to whether or not Joe Biden will complete his first term and whether or not they'd be comfortable with Stacey Abrams, someone who hasn't even served in the United States House or Senate, going in, or in the governor position going into the White House. So again, that just all has to do with experience. It's something that we hear every election year. Michelle Lujan Grisham, she's New Mexico governor. I would say that Biden, if he chose her, would definitely do better amongst that entire region, that southwestern region of the United States. When we're talking about ability to appeal to Hispanic voters, that's somewhere where Biden is lacking, but I really think he's making up for it with his appeal to white college-educated voters, also crossing over a number of senior citizen voters. On top of that, driving up African-American turnout. And also, I understand that Biden is decreasing amongst Latino support, but it is very narrow, and I don't think it's enough to completely redraw the map from 2016, at least against the Democratic Party. And then Tammy Baldwin is from the state of Wisconsin. She actually was just recently elected in 2018. Not recently elected, but re-elected. She just had her election bid then. Gina Raimondo is the Rhode Island governor, I believe. I don't think that's good. That would not be a good choice, just because of the fact that she wasn't very popular in her own home state, and then they're going to raise questions about her. So moving past the falls off ranking thing, also receiving votes are, I guess, these candidates, the same ones that fell off the rankings. But looking at the position, change over May 22nd VP ranking. That is the last time they actually gave us a ranking for potential vice presidential choices. Susan Rice goes from not even being on the list to number 2. And that's pretty substantial. I would say that, also I just realized why Gina Raimondo is mentioned on this list. It's because Rhode Island has had a very, very good coronavirus record. So I'm assuming her approval rating will jump up, but there were some discussions about her in the past on my channel. Moving past that, looking at Susan Rice and Karen Bass jumping up to 2 and 4. Respectively. That's pretty substantial. I mean, they just added on to this ranking. They moved down Tammy Duckworth, and Val Demings went from number 6 to number 5. So, these people were just pushed down, and Kamala Harris has remained at top, and Elizabeth Warren has remained right under Kamala Harris and Susan Rice. So we're looking at Susan Rice, who seems to be a very good candidate for Joe Biden. Now, the reason for that being the fact that she has a very close connection with Vice President Biden, serving in the Obama White House, and also her experience as a national security advisor, as an ambassador. She has a lot of foreign policy experience. If this was a foreign policy election, we would have already been known that Susan Rice would have been the nominee months ago. I mean, as soon as Joe Biden clinched the nomination, the question as to whether or not he would choose Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren as a possibility of appeasing the progressive base, it doesn't look like it's going to be Elizabeth Warren. Now, the main reason for that is the fact that there's a huge call from the Democratic Party for Joe Biden to choose a black woman. There's never been a black vice president. There's never been a woman vice president. This would break 2 barriers at once, while also, conforming to the times. We're in a time period where, black Americans feel as if they're not represented in Congress, not represented in the White House anymore. And even when Obama was in, there were a lot of people that were still unhappy with the way that Obama treated a number of civil issues in this country. So when we see someone such as Susan Rice and Kamala Harris enter into the field, some people may be more optimistic, knowing that a black woman will be in the vice presidential spot if Joe Biden is to win the election. But then you also have to realize Elizabeth Warren, while appealing to the progressive base, also denies the very big elephant in the room that is the Black Lives Matter movement. With a number of Americans believing racial issues to be the number 1 or number 2 issue in America, you definitely need a person of color, at least, in the White House with you to actually speak from personal experience. I understand that, testimony is a very powerful thing. Someone who's an advocate for minority Americans nationwide would be very important. But also you have to realize that someone who has personally experienced discrimination, someone who has personally experienced a lot of the things that happen in this country towards minorities really could make the difference, especially at the ballot box. I mean, these people are minority Americans definitely can feel a personal connection to someone rather than someone who just claims that they are for the people. And, looking at Kamala Harris, despite her shaky prosecutor record, I would say she's actually a pretty good choice. And looking at where I think she offers an advantage electorally, she's from California, so that doesn't really matter. But in terms of increasing black turnout, she's a very charismatic candidate, arguably. I mean, looking at her debate performance, she will likely perform very well against Mike Pence, much better than Tim Kaine at least. On top of that, she will likely respond to a number of attacks with a very fired up, rhetoric. She is very smart. She would be a good candidate in terms of campaigning. If we're seeing a lack of enthusiasm for Joe Biden, it might be made up for by Kamala Harris. She does offer an advantage in states such as North Carolina and Georgia and, states in the South that we're seeing increased African-American turnout that could really change the tides in this election. Also, in those states with, 7 to 8% of the black vote, that also could matter because that's what gave the Democrats the victories in these 3 states in the past, but also gave Hillary Clinton a loss when they didn't turn out to vote in 2016. Also for Susan Rice, I think that Hillary Clinton's name will be brought back up. Susan Rice served in the White House. Obviously, they're going to closely tie her not only to President Obama because Joe Biden's obviously the VP, so they already have that covered. Then they could also tie her to Hillary Clinton. And, the worst candidate that you could possibly have even being mentioned this election season is Hillary Clinton. She is the one who lost a number of swing states. Despite being a very experienced candidate, as Susan Rice was, those scandals are what brought her down. It wasn't the fact that she served as a senator. It wasn't the fact that she was first lady. It was the fact that she served for those short years in the White House, less than Susan Rice actually, is what brought down her entire campaign. We didn't see much about Bill Clinton. It was mentioned maybe once or twice throughout the entire campaign season. But then if you look at where Trump attacked Hillary Clinton on, if Hillary had not served in the Obama White House, I understand she would maybe not have as much experience and the primary would have been more difficult. But if she had returned to the Senate, we probably would be in a reality where President Hillary Clinton is a thing. And that's largely because of the fact that the Obama White House is what brought Hillary Clinton down and is what largely could bring down Susan Rice as a possible VP choice. Now, I don't think that Elizabeth Warren will be the nominee. Unfortunately for her, I think the time has come where there is a woman of color as vice president. I think that's what America and the Democratic Party is looking for when Biden announces next week. And if we look at Karen Bass, that seems like a possible chance. However, there's been a lot that has been released about her recently, whether it's her attending the Church of Scientology or the number of comments that she made in the 90s. A number of things have come out from Karen Bass that we are starting to see may actually turn off black voters. Not only is she not well known nationwide, once she is going to be, completely jumped on, and everything about her past will be dissected. That's already been done for Kamala Harris. That's already been done by the Obama White House for Susan Rice. That's even already been done for Elizabeth Warren. And Val Demings has been a pretty common name in the past couple of months. So people have been digging into her past. But for Karen Bass, as soon as they even floated her name as a potential choice, a number of things came out against her that really would not put her in a good position to be VP. She would offer a lot of baggage to the Biden campaign, which they frankly can't afford to have. For Elizabeth Warren, she does appease the progressive base, but you also have to realize that there is that small amount of Bernie Sanders supporters that believe Elizabeth Warren remained in the race to screw over Bernie Sanders. That way the progressive vote would be split while Biden was to sweep the states. And I honestly don't think that's true at all. If you look at the states where Elizabeth Warren remained in the race, Michael Bloomberg remained in the race as well, and all of those Bloomberg voters would absolutely been Biden voters. I mean, as soon as he endorsed him, Biden went up to 60% nationwide. So you also have to realize that if she had dropped out, Bloomberg should have dropped out as well, just to clear the race for a two-way race, and then Biden would have taken it from there, based off all the data that we saw following that election. But looking at Elizabeth Warren and Karen Bass, these are the two people that the progressive movement seems to be backing. If you've seen in the news, 300 DNC delegates are asking Biden to go with Karen Bass as a potential choice. Karen Bass, again, doesn't offer too much of an advantage electorally. I, again, understand the need for a woman of color, but if she has that many things behind her that could possibly screw over the Biden campaign, it'd be very difficult to see as to why they would choose her as VP when there's much better options. I think Senator Kamala Harris I understand she has a shaky record as a prosecutor. Val Demings, she's from Florida. She would offer those 29 electoral votes at a much better position than they are right now, which is kind of hard to say considering that Biden's up there by 6%, 7% in that state. But if we're looking at her past as well, the same things that Kamala Harris could be attacked on, being a prosecutor, Val Demings was a police chief. And I understand she joined with the intention of police reform, but you also have to realize one ad of a picture with her in her police uniform, that could turn off a number of black voters. I mean, we're talking about a time where there's the Blue Lives Matter versus the Black Lives Matter movement. And, the country's split, and the Black Lives Matter movement seems to be one of the top issues for this nation, to the fact that, the Biden campaign is addressing this. Obama's campaign definitely talked about it before. Not Obama's campaign, the Obama White House definitely talked about it before. But, Hillary Clinton, this wasn't a top issue in 2016. I mean, this is not something that the Clinton campaign really needed to harp on, whereas the Biden campaign absolutely does. And if they choose someone who served as a police chief, again, I understand that she had the best of intentions joining in the police force, but it's going to be very difficult explaining to, the minority Americans that the same people that, are being perceived as attacking minority rights nationwide is the same person that they want to put in the White House with Joe Biden. And that's only going to add on to the fact that some people view Joe Biden as potentially, anti-black. Or, the comments that he made back in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, a lot of those things are going to start to resurface on top of the fact that he chose Val Demings. That could be a bad choice. But also, Kamala Harris doesn't exactly have too squeaky clean of a record either. I just think that since she's been serving as a United States Senator, she's been completely trying to revamp her image, especially since she ran for president in 2020. And almost everything that's out there has already been out there. There could be way more with Val Demings than what we expect. She's a representative from Florida. Kamala Harris was, a second place candidate in 2019. Back in July, as soon as she skyrocketed, right around this time actually, she was second place nationwide, beating Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. And throughout her entire campaign, people were attacking her. Tulsi Gabbard came out with a number of things to say about her at the debate. A number of ads were put out against Kamala Harris. She dropped out, but all of that baggage, yes, will likely move over into the Biden campaign. But you also have to realize a lot of that baggage was to convince other Democrats to not vote for her. And I don't think a lot of that stuff that will necessarily turn off Democratic voters can be used, considering that it would either be a Trump or Republican PAC that's going to be pushing out those ads, and it's really not going to be too effective. Whereas there could be a completely different super PAC or just a PAC for Americans, whatever they want to call it, that's obviously backing President Trump, that could be used against a number of these other potential choices that haven't been vetted too recently. Karen Bass is a perfect example, or even Val Demings, these people who, yes, have been vetted a little bit now, but you also have to realize it'd be a very quick choice for Biden to go ahead and choose her. A quick choice to go ahead and choose Karen Bass. I understand there's a recent push for her, but it's going to be very difficult if there's a number of things that come out in September, October that the Republican Party could even be waiting on, hoping that Biden chooses these people as VP. And that completely changed the direction of the election. I mean, Sarah Palin is a perfect example of when not to choose a VP choice just because you want something that's groundbreaking, a female VP. And Biden already committed to that a long time ago, so that's not changing. But if Biden's to jump on someone who the progressive movement or the progressive side of the Democratic Party is saying, please choose this candidate, but at the same time, there's a number of things day after day after day that's starting to taint the reputation of these representatives, of these senators, of these former advisors, it's going to be very difficult for Biden to choose them and sleep at night, especially through the election. We're going to see a lot of things come out in September, October. This time frame, we're going to see a lot come out that's going to negatively impact both campaigns, as it did in 2016. I don't think I have to remind a lot of people that Trump's comment about women came out just 2 weeks before the election. Then the email investigation reopened, the entire issue of Russian interference. All of these things happened last minute. And I mean, we're way far away from October. Not actually, but, campaign-wise, there's a lot that could come out in between then, and there's a lot that will come out in the final 2 weeks of the campaign that likely could narrow up the race or expand it for whichever candidate. So I think Biden is probably going to choose Kamala Harris or Susan Rice or possibly Val Demings. I think Karen Bass just has a lot of, things that haven't been uncovered yet, and I think it'd be very difficult for Biden to choose her and expect to win the race, especially since she isn't too well known. I understand choosing a VP choice will make them completely well known nationwide, completely covered by the media, but that's the problem. If she isn't too well known, people don't know much about her. People aren't going to be as excited as they are for Karen Bass as they are for Elizabeth Warren or Susan Rice or even Val Demings. So Moving past that, I think that Biden should be trusted with his potential choice. They obviously don't have the name on the DNC website, but we will start to see them filling it up, who's going to be speaking on what days. And the DNC is just, a week a day, 10 days from now. The DNC begins Monday, August 17th. So that should be very interesting, to say the least. A virtual convention, the likes of which we haven't seen in forever. But we will see. Most of us don't go to the convention in person, so that would be cool to see. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. On your screen, there's a video that you can go ahead and watch, and then a playlist for my 2020 election videos. I'm sure there's some other VP choice videos. I actually might make that into its own playlist. We'll see. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you all later today.